Today we mourn the loss of Sister of St. Joseph Mary Dooley, former president of the College of Our Lady of the Elms and former president of the Sisters of St. Joseph. Sister Mary died Thursday, November 14th at Mount Marie Healthcare Center in Holyoke after a long illness. She was 90 years old. Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm Terry Hegarty. I'll be reporting on an important collection, the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, a program that helps break the cycle of poverty.
I'm Rebecca Drake. I'll show you how a priest is helping police reduce crime in Springfield's North End neighborhoods.
And high school students in Newtown, Connecticut focus on light and faith. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel.
From throughout Western New England and beyond, this is Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Here is your Reel to Reel host, Sharon Roulier.
Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. It's been almost a year since the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School, where 20 children and 6 educators were killed. A tragedy that brought the nation to its knees. Last week, we heard from the pastor of St. Rose of Lima Church in Newtown, where several of the children were parishioners. Tonight, we continue our series, this time focusing on the faith of the high school youth group there. These teens have been through incredible heartache in the last year, but their faith and the faith of the entire parish community really brings to life what John writes in the Gospel. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Reel to Reel's Carolee McGrath joins us now with the second part of this special report.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou.
Every Sunday night, Rod Blessey gathers with the teens of St. Rose of Lima Parish in Newtown, Connecticut. Rod, the high school youth minister for St. Rose, has more than 100 teens involved in youth group, an impressive number to say the least. Teens already have enough on their plates with schoolwork, peer pressure, and just the regular ups and downs of growing up. But in the past year, these teens have been through more heartache than most can imagine, coping with the devastating tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School, where 20 children and 6 educators were murdered December 14th.
How have you managed to get to this point?
Well, the truth is that, what we do as a group is the same thing we did in December. Our kids, we bring our kids to the sacraments. And, when tough times happen, you need to spend time with your Heavenly Father.
Rod, a father of 3, says consistency has been crucial over the last year to help the teenagers heal. The youth group regularly attends Eucharistic adoration and prays the Rosary. They also go on retreats together. They were the largest parish represented last summer at the Steubenville East Conference at the University of Rhode Island.
I've seen, some things with these teens where they're just, some of them just never really got to grieve, and they're before the Blessed Sacrament, and, he just pours out, his love to them and gives them a little bit of healing, allows them to grieve.
Alex Gerbo is a sophomore at Immaculate High School, a Catholic school in nearby Danbury. The 16-year-old has an older brother and a younger brother.
There's no other way to say it. It's been tough, but going through it with so many people around you, and that's one of the main things I've discovered through this time, is that having people with you to experience it with you, it really helps.
8 of the first graders murdered were parishioners at St. Rose of Lima.
I don't think I was angry. I was more so confused, but right away that we had a huge mass, which a lot of people heard about. I got the opportunity to serve at it, and I think that just through the beauty of the Mass and seeing so many people come together, I quickly realized that God wasn't he hadn't abandoned our town.
Rebecca Vadola is a senior at Immaculate High School as well. She's the oldest of 5 girls.
My faith has been absolutely essential throughout the whole ordeal after the tragedy. My faith is what grounded me and the faith of others around me. And it can be difficult to trust in God, especially when something so tragic happens. But I don't think I ever had a problem with it because my faith was so strong beforehand.
The teens and Rod say that right away they and others in the parish knew that an act of evil, not God, caused the tragedy. And they say there were signs that God was near. One was the cross in the clouds, a picture taken the morning of the shooting by parishioner Michael Coppola. And then there was this rainbow on Divine Mercy Sunday in April, which appeared after the youth group prayed the Chaplet of Divine Mercy.
I actually went outside because there was another teen coming out. I walk outside and a couple other adults, we walked out and we look up and there's this rainbow literally going, from one side all the way over the top of the church to the other.
Yeah, the cross in the clouds, the rainbow, I mean, it's so obvious that God never left us. He was always here.
Monsignor Weiss, the pastor of St. Rose, says he's convinced that the only way to stop such senseless violence is by building a culture of life, where the dignity of every person is valued and protected. He says the cross in the clouds and the rainbow are signs of hope.
I think from the beginning people saw this as evil, but then to realize that through this image of a cross, and you can read what you want into it, but I think all of us read into the fact that God is near to us. Initially I saw it as a sign of protection, but as time went on, we had a visionary here from Medjugorje who spoke, and I was listening to him speak. I realized that there was also a burden that had been laid on this community to continue to witness to faith. A cross was laid on the shoulders of this town, and what were we going to do with that? Were we going to just let it hang there, or were we going to do like Jesus did? He died on the cross, but then he rose.
I'm holding rosary beads, and these were made for the youth group here at St. Rose of Lima Parish, and you can see they're green and white like the colors of Newtown. And both the teens here and Monsignor Weiss agree that the most important thing that we as Catholics can do for those who are suffering is to pray, and pray often, and also to witness to Christ's love and His peace and His mercy. What do you want people to do a year later for you? What can we do as Catholics at home who are watching this?
Let's just get back to what we're supposed to be. Our community and honoring the first anniversary is not going to have a town-wide observance. We're asking people to do kindnesses within their own community in the name of these victims. Let's get back to where we live, and let's make a difference where we live. And whether it's here in Newtown or whether it's in Southbury or anywhere in this world, let's get back to what God called us to be. I realize that we've had a lot of issues in our church, and it has driven many, many people away. But even our new bishop is saying, let's just go one by one. Let's reach out to one person at a time and take their hand and bring them back.
Reporting for Reel to Reel from Newtown, I'm Carolee McGrath.
Carolee joins me now. Carolee, these teens are such incredible witnesses of Christ's love. Do they realize what their example and their words mean to so many people?
You know what, Sharon, I asked Alex, who was featured in the story, that exact question, and he said this to me. He said, we're just like other teens living out our faith. And I said, well, really, your witness of faith is so incredible to so many people. And he was certainly humbled by that, obviously would wish that the circumstances were different. But he said the key for everybody is to be consistent and to constantly share Christ's love and His peace with people.
And I understand the teens also have a special devotion to Mary, which in many cases is rare for the younger generation today. Why do they have such a devotion?
Well, Rebecca in particular has a devotion to Mary, and she had the most beautiful response to me when I asked her about it. She said Mary is the perfect example for young women, and really for all Catholics. You think about Mary's yes to God and how that gives us an example that we need to say yes to God in all of the different circumstances that we're presented with. We, of course, don't worship Mary, she added, but we have a strong devotion to her because she is the mother of our Lord, and she will always lead us to Jesus.
Okay, Carolee, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sharon.
And still to come on Reel to Reel, the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, helping to break the cycle of poverty. And walking the streets of Springfield to make neighborhoods safer. These stories and more are still to come on this edition of Reel to Reel.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to join us on Sunday morning at 10. Join us this week as we welcome Father Warren Savage and highlight the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. The Chalice of Salvation, your spiritual connection, Sunday morning at 10, here on 22 News.
Supporting programs that help low to moderate income families break the cycle of poverty is the core mission of the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, a program of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. CCHD funds go to agencies that help people help themselves. Next weekend, parishioners across the Diocese of Springfield will be asked to consider making a donation to the annual CCHD collection. Terry Hegarty tells us now how those funds will make a difference in the lives of so many in our area.
The Catholic Campaign for Human Development, which was begun in 1969 by the United States Catholic Bishops, is dedicated to breaking the cycle of poverty by funding community programs that encourage independence. The key to the success of CCHD, officials say, is listening to the people who are affected by poverty.
Those who work and live in poverty are the first ones who can tell you what the issues are, and they do know best what it is that they need in order to resolve the issues. And Catholic Campaign for Human Development honors that. It honors the wisdom of all people, number one, but it honors the wisdom of those who really are experiencing the problem.
The problem of poverty is manyfold. Aside from ensuring necessities such as food and shelter, meeting long-term needs like opportunities for employment, adequate transportation, and educational opportunities can be just as important.
We've got to come together and build organizations of people who have a longer view, right? This is about more than a soup kitchen. A soup kitchen is, of course, important. But we want to actually look at the root causes of hunger, for example, and look at distributions of resources, look at how food is grown, look at where grocery stores are, and try to rebuild our communities, help create economic development and living wage jobs, and bring families together so that they can actually lift themselves out of poverty.
The Catholic Campaign for Human Development not only helps those who are in poverty, but it also helps to break the cycle of poverty by supporting programs that empower people. Catherine says that such programs give hope to people who find themselves in nearly hopeless situations.
I think that a promise of a better tomorrow is something that we all can relate to. Imagine being voiceless and finding your voice. Imagine feeling as though nobody is out there for you and finding that group of people that share similar desires and a similar desire to work for change. Also imagine feeling totally powerless in situations and finding that you can be empowered. It's a total turnaround in a person's life.
That's what happened to Paul Lumpkin just a few years ago through a CCHD-funded program. Paul, a Springfield resident and single father of 4, was empowered by a visit from his daughter's kindergarten teacher, a visit that was part of the Pioneer Valley Project's parent-teacher home visit program.
It was a transformative experience in the sense that I've been in many situations where I'm completely overlooked as a parent. For the teacher to actually come into my home and actually hear my story and reach out to me, it actually made me feel like I was a part of something. And that right there, it motivated me. It motivated me and empowered me to become involved in my community.
Paul recently joined the board of directors for CCHD. Locally, CCHD funds support the Pioneer Valley Project and a newly formed Berkshire Organizing Project, a group with members and clergy from several faiths who are committed to alleviating poverty in the Berkshires.
The way it's done is through relationship building within and among congregations and across lines of difference, and leadership development. It's about bringing people together to build a voice for the region.
The Berkshire Organizing Project recently held a leadership training institute in Pittsfield, which was designed to prepare people to make positive changes in society. The Pioneer Valley Project, a Springfield-based coalition of congregations and labor unions, focuses on social justice issues. Tara Parrish, director of PVP, says that the $10,000 grant they received last year from the CCHD was vital.
This funding at this moment in PVP's life is really transformative because we're positioned for some growth right now, and so this really adds the capacity that we need in order to continue to grow as an organization, build more relationships, bring more members in so that we can be a stronger voice, a more unified voice in Springfield across neighborhoods, across racial lines, across economic lines.
Catherine says that the CCHD honors Catholic social teaching.
And it honors the dignity of life. And it says that, we're working with human beings, and that human beings of their own are worthy and valuable. We need to thrive. We help people to thrive.
That help can only come through the generosity of donors. The collection takes place nationwide each November. Last year in the Diocese of Springfield, nearly $60,000 was donated, helping alleviate poverty both locally and nationwide. Reporting for Reel to Reel, this is Terry Hegarty.
I'm Dan Dumas with your Reel to Reel news brief. Bishops from across the United States, including Springfield Bishop Timothy McDonald, gathered last week for their annual fall meetings in Baltimore. Among the tasks was the election of a new leadership team. On Tuesday, they elected Archbishop Joseph Kurtz of Louisville, Kentucky, as president of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. He will succeed Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York. Also elected was Cardinal Daniel DiNardo of Galveston, Houston, Texas, as vice president. The bishops also agreed to the use of the Mexican Missal to draft the U.S. Spanish language missal with appropriate adaptations. They also voted to write a pastoral letter on the use of pornography and reiterated their concerns over the violation of the constitutional right of religious freedom being posed by the Affordable Care Act and regulations added by the Department of Health and Human Services. Meanwhile, religious educators from across the diocese gathered recently for the annual Religious Education Congress. Terry Hegarty has our story.
As the keynote speaker for the 2013 Diocesan Religious Education Congress, Carol Eipers made her presentation in costume, complete with top hat, bow tie, a full blazer, and white gloves. Dressed as a New York City doorman, she stood in front of the more than 100 religious educators at Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Parish in Westfield recently and told them that they opened the door of faith to their students.
What I want to address is kind of catechist as doorman, as door person, who welcomes, who makes people feel safe and secure and at home.
Carol is Vice President and Executive Director for Catechetics for the William Sadler Company, a publisher of religious education materials. She told the catechists that they serve a vital role in passing along the faith.
We as a church accepted these children at baptism, and we promised as a church that we would help them to grow in faith.
The day included a prayer service hosted by Bishop McDonald. He thanked the catechists for all that they do to pass along the gospel.
Catechists in a special way are those who reach out to teach, to share Jesus, because the only way we can teach Christ is to share him with others. He has to be with us first before we can give him to another.
Sister Paula Robillard also believes that such days help participants to grow in their faith.
I'm forever talking about how religious education is a lifelong experience that we never really come to know who God is fully. And so all of our lives we continue to learn. And so a day like this gives the catechists the opportunity to enrich their own spiritual life, their own educational life.
In that spirit, participants were afforded opportunities to attend any 2 of the more than 12 workshops given by presenters from both within and beyond the diocese.
Thanks, Terry. It was sad news from Montmarie this past Thursday as the Sisters of St. Joseph announced the passing of former President Sister Mary Dooley. Sister Mary taught at St. Joseph High School in North Adams and at the College of Our Lady of the Elms before serving as president of the Sisters of St. Joseph from 1971 to 1979. She went on to serve as president of the College of Our Lady of the Elms for 14 years, as well as held the office of national president of the Leadership Conference of Women Religious, and was an official delegate to the installations of Pope John Paul I and John Paul II. You can read a complete obituary on Sister Mary on our website, iobserve.org. Finally, Americans have been moved by the devastation caused by the recent typhoon in the Philippines. In order to provide assistance through Catholic Relief Services, Bishop McDonald has asked a special collection be taken up November 30th and December 1st in all Catholic parishes. Those who wish to donate sooner may do so through a link we've included on iobserve.org. You can make your donation there now, as well as keep up to date on all the happenings in the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and beyond. That's iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and that's your Reel to Reel News Brief.
The relationship between police officers and priests is one that has often been portrayed in movies and TV series, but a local law enforcement program has brought these 2 characters together in a new way. Rebecca Drake has the story now of a young priest who is working and walking with police officers to make Springfield neighborhoods safer.
It's been featured in the New York Times and on the 60 Minutes television program. But there is a part of Springfield's counter-criminal continuum, or C3 policing story that hasn't been told yet. The role of the local Catholic Church and the young Latino priest who, along with state and city police officers, is helping residents of the city's North End neighborhoods take back their streets.
Having Father Yerrick here is a blessing. How else can I say it? 1, he's young. 2, he speaks the language. He knows the culture. He knows our customs.
As part of a program that depends on the participation of residents in reporting and reducing crime, Father Yerrick Mendez, parochial vicar at Springfield Sacred Heart Parish, says that on the street is where he needs to be.
I think as a priest, first and foremost, I represent Christ and his church. And to be a presence in the community in a time when many people have not come to church anymore, well, it's time for the church to come to them. That's what Christ did with his disciples.
Along with the police officers, Father Yerrick walks through the North End neighborhoods each week, greeting residents and visiting business owners, encouraging them to voice their concerns about crime and safety.
To show the community that we are here for you and that we're willing to work with you and that there's a way out of violence, drugs, gangs, and that we can establish relationships of trust and not so much of suspicion with each other.
During the neighborhood visits, the priest and the police officers invite people to attend weekly community meetings, like this one held last spring at the Sacred Heart Community Center.
Father Yerrick has become very, very well known now in the North End. People are going to him for all sorts of entanglements.
During the meetings, police officers, citizens, local students, and representatives of community organizations report on their activities and share concerns and ideas for improving community life.
We just want to bring the community more aware that mental illness services.
One regular participant in the weekly meetings is Ted Kupak, a longtime resident of the North End.
In my neighborhood, which is located right in the center of North End, I've seen just about everything you could see. I've seen the shootings, I've seen a lot of violent domestic problems, a lot of gang problems. And in the 3 years that the state police and the local police have been working together, I actually saw this diminish, start spreading apart.
Diminishing gang activity and gun violence is exactly what the C3 program is designed to do, according to the guy who brought the idea to the Massachusetts State Police Force.
99% of the folks down there don't want gang members or drug dealers in the community. But unwittingly, they passively support the behavior. So what counterinsurgency or the C3 policing does is we want to turn that on its head. We want to isolate the gang member and the drug dealer by, with, and through the community.
State Trooper Michael Catone, who also is a Master Sergeant in the U.S. Army Special Forces, thought that the military model that helped deter insurgent attacks in Iraq would work in Springfield. And he was right. 1 year after the program started, police records showed a significant decrease in gang-related crimes. But the numbers aren't the only things that have changed.
This is a very proud neighborhood. These are very proud people. So once you activate that, the success, it breeds more success, positiveness. It does change a community.
Having the support and counsel of Father Yerrick and Monsignor George Farland, pastor of Sacred Heart Parish, also is significant for the C3 police officers, most of whom are Catholic.
I'm grateful for Monsignor Farland advocating to get a newly ordained priest, a Spanish-speaking priest, into the area. So we're very grateful. Father Farland's been supporting us from the very beginning. Father Yerrick's a wonderful priest.
But as much as he has given to the C3 policing program, Father Yerrick says he has received an even greater gift.
Just being a part of this program, being a part of these walks, has allowed me to really put a face to the people that I pray for each and every day. And it gives me a renewed sense of purpose and awareness of what's actually going on, what are the needs, and that leaves me a little more open to the Holy Spirit's whispering into my ear saying, this is what you need to be doing. Yeah.
The people of the North End would likely agree that this priest is keeping his promise to bring the compassion of Christ to those he serves each day. For Reel to Reel, I'm Rebecca Drake.
Father Yerrick is certainly putting shoes on the gospel message of solidarity with those in need. The success of the C3 policing program has inspired a similar program to be implemented in Springfield's South End in the coming months. And next week, Springfield Bishop Timothy McDonald will host the annual Blue Mass for police officers and safety public officials and their families. The Mass will be held at St. Michael's Cathedral at 4 p.m. next Saturday, November 23rd. Police, fire, and other emergency personnel are asked to gather 15 minutes prior to the Mass outside the cathedral in their Class A uniforms to process into the cathedral. And you can watch that celebration on the November 24th Chalice of Salvation program. And also, it's last call for tickets to next Sunday's Diocesan Singing Priest Benefit Concert for the Sisters of St. Joseph. If you want to attend, tickets are still available by calling the Mount at 413-536-0853. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Remember, for all of the latest news on the church in Western Massachusetts and around the globe, we have continuous updates on our website, iobserve.org. There you can view stories and entire episodes of this program, as well as read news reports from the acclaimed Catholic News Service. That's iobserve.org. And please join me again this same time next week for another edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Have a great week.